Today I'm here with Brian Perez, who is going to tell us about the United States after the Civil War. Hello there, Brian. How are you today?
Hi, I am excited to be here today. Thank you.
So, Brian, first of all, how did the United States become an industrialized society after the Civil War?
Oh, well, there were new improved ways of producing. The use of machines spread throughout American industry after the Civil War. With the use of machines, workers were able to produce goods faster than by hand. The new large manufacturing firms hired hundreds or even thousands of workers. There was a system of organizing laborers which sped up production. This is where each worker was assigned to do a specific task. Also, railroads were being constructed, which allowed sending goods from one place to another. And the factories in the north were producing more than ever before and had enough money for new inventions. During the industrial era, inventors created and business leaders produced and sold the following products, which were, like the typewriter, for instance, in 1867, barbed wire in 1874, the telephone in 1876, the phonograph, which was an early form of the record player invented in 1877, the electric light in 1879, and the petrol engine in 1885. Also, natural resources played an important part of rising businesses. America had immense forests and large supplies of water. It also had vast mineral wealth, including coal, iron, copper, silver, and gold. Industries used these resources to manufacture a variety of goods. The North had a lot of machinery that needed to be handled by people. With the use of machines, more people were needed, and it was also a more efficient way. There were 7 factors that encouraged this growth. 1, plentiful natural resources, immense forest, and large supply of water. Vast mineral wealth such as coal, iron, copper, silver, and gold were natural resources that industries used to manufacture a variety of goods. 2, growing population. The U.S. population grew from 31.5 million in the 1860s to 76 million in the 1900s. With the growth in population, the demand for goods grew rapidly. 3, improved transportation. In the early 1800s, steamboats, canals, and railroads made it possible to ship goods long distance more quickly. After the Civil War, railroad building boomed. Shipping raw materials and the finished goods became easier to industry. 4, high immigration. Many of the new immigrants that came to the U.S. in between the 1860s and 1900s knew specialized skills, such as metalworking and other things. In addition, unskilled immigrants supplied the labor that growing industries needed. 5, new inventions. New machines and improved processes helped industries produce goods more efficiently. 6, investment capital. When the economy was thriving, many businesses made large profits. Hoping to share in those profits, banks and wealthy people lent businesses money. Then government assistance. After the Civil War, the United States imposed several tariffs on imported goods. State and federal governments also used land grants and subsidies to help businesses grow.
So what you're saying is that the United States wouldn't have been so successful in producing goods without new technology that was invented, which is beneficial for more job openings?
Yes, that is correct.
Interesting. After the Civil War, why did people migrate?
Oh, well, after the Civil War, the North's economy saw a boom in the building of the railroads, industry, commerce, and the opening up of the West. The South was defeated and had to be rebuilt. The freeing of slaves and the horrors of Reconstruction further hindered the growth of the economy, and the South's economy was wrecked. The whites wanted to own their own land or have some type of business or just have a low-paying job, you know? Other races began to come to the U.S. for hopes of a better life, which is like the main reason for those from Central America today. But back then, Europeans and several Asians came to the United States because the U.S. provided a plentiful amount of jobs, especially low-paying jobs, which is attractive to them. Another reason why people like Chinese came here was to save a substantial amount of money to bring back to their country. And of course, there were struggles in the South after the war because farmers were basically considered the bottom of the economic ladder, and they lost a lot of materials during the war. In fact, they asked for help from the government agriculturally, so they needed help with their crops and stuff like that.
With the rising economy and people aspired to be like other Americans, thus the American dream, and because of several jobs available, especially the low-paying jobs, people like the Chinese wanted to migrate either legally or illegally, for those reasons that she mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Those seems like good reasons to migrate.
Yes, I totally agree. The rate of urbanization was astonishing, really. Urbanization is the rapid growth of city populations. In 1860, only 1 American in 5 was a city dweller. By 1890, 1 in 3 lived in a city. For the first time, the United States had cities the sizes of London and Paris. The reason for the rapid urbanization was simple. Cities attracted industry, and industries attracted people. Farmers, immigrants, and African Americans from the South all migrated to cities in search of jobs and excitement. Many fast-growing cities were located near waterways. New York and San Francisco had excellent ocean harbors. Chicago rose on the shores of Lake Michigan. Cities near waterways drew industry because they provided easy transportation for goods. Since hundreds of thousands of immigrants were coming to the United States, they needed to find shelter for themselves. The solution to this problem was building tenements where each one was so close to the other that you couldn't even walk between tight spaces. And rural life was basically spread out homes that were typically found out in the country. The homes in rural areas had their own strip of land to plant, etc. Rural life, though, it wasn't the best because people didn't have enough money than the people in the urban areas did. Anyway, back to the tenements. As I said before, there were 5 or 4-story buildings which blacks and immigrants were forced by poverty and prejudice, even law. They were forced into these ghettos and slums. But another thing that was developed during this time was a skyscraper in Chicago, which was the first skyscraper in 1885.
Oh, what a mouthful. I guess what you just answered is trying to tell us that because life in rural areas was not what people wanted. They wanted to be able to have a job, and the urban areas had that. I guess living in an urban area was better than the South because of job availability. Those tight, cramped housing units weren't in the best condition. All right, last question. How did immigration of the late 1800s change American society?
Oh, well, to elaborate on that, immigrants who came to the U.S. after the Civil War came primarily from Eastern and Southern Europe, which included Poland, Italy, and the Baltic countries. They did not fit in very well because, 1, most were illiterate and possessed no industrial skills at all. 2, all were poor. 3, their strange language and customs made them easily identifiable. 4, labor was getting organized and didn't want poor foreigners who would work for low wages. So that was a really big concern back then. This led to nationwide concern, as what I just said. Anyway, whites were racists toward others, and they also didn't like people who had different religious beliefs as they did. And diversity. After the Civil War, people throughout the world came to the United States, including those from Europe and Asia. Roughly 10 million European immigrants settled in the U.S. between the 1860s and 1890s. Most of these new Europeans settled in the Northeast, dominated by Irish and Italians, and the Midwest, dominated by Germans, while the West also experienced an influx of European immigrants. It mostly attracted immigrants from China, but they also were here for the American dream as well.
The immigration changed American society because several whites were not welcoming to people from other countries. Another thing in that immigrants came for low-paying jobs which caused tension to those already living here and wanted those jobs. All of that is very interesting.
Astonishing, isn't it?
Yes, exactly, and worth learning. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me here, and also thank you for explaining the whys.
All right, that's all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen.